Yo, what is going on, everybody, man? It's Declan Rice is going to be an Arsenal player, and we're here to talk about it. So, Gary, how are you, bro? I'm joined by Gary. How's
Yeah, I'm
everything
good,
going,
mate.
mate?
I'm good. Just excited now with some of these signings that are coming in. Uh, Looking forward to the new season. We get a few more in through the door. Happy days.
Yep, yep. And I think for us, mate, sorry, I'm just still working on some of the audio here, making sure it's working. And for us, it's very telling that this thing is not drawn out to be one of the longest running sagas that we thought it was going to be. I mean, we really couldn't handle something like that. It just doesn't work, does it? Having a long
No,
running saga all the way through the summer, you can
yeah,
see that we've changed. We've changed the way we do everything.
it needed to be done and dusted, though, didn't it? Like, it was, every day it was like, the new bid's going in, another bid's going in, City are putting a bid in, blah blah blah. It just needed
Yeah.
to have a line drawn under it. And apparently, from what I read, Josh was the one that stepped up and went, "Look, boom, there you go, take it, job done."
Yeah,
Now they're just
exactly.
haggling about the actual structure of the payment. West Ham want it over 18 months, and Arsenal want to do it over 4 years.
Yeah,
So maybe they'll meet in the middle.
I think for us, the key is that so let's talk about these events, guys. Shout out to everybody. First of all, make shout out Emerson. Emerson, shout out to you. He says, "Good evening." Another bit of breaking news, nothing to do with Havertz or Rice. Adidas have announced that the away top will be out on the 18th of July and the third choice on the 1st of August. Thanks for letting us know because I wasn't really aware of that. Gary's like, yeah, whatever you said, it's out now and you
It's
can get
out
it now.
right now.
Yeah, yeah. 18 says, so excited for this upcoming season. So are we. I just talked to Tony Cox about an hour ago, and Cox was like, we better get them season tickets sorted out, man, because we're on it. We're on it. G says, I think Rice being more consistent ball winner than par teams pinned in too. Yeah, that's a good point. So, guys, the events, everybody knew what was going on. David Ornstein reported Man City was going to make a bid. These are the time of events. Arsenal put the second bid in for 90 million all in. It was it was denied. They shut it down. Man City came in, and here's the joke. The bid was supposed to be on Thursday when it was announced by David Ornstein. So then everybody thought within the next 24 hours. Friday came, no Man City bid. Saturday came, no Man City bid. Sunday came, no Man City bid. So eventually the bid did go through on Monday. But let's go back to why the bid didn't go through. Now, Manchester City had second thoughts about putting the bid through because, having talked to the player about personal terms, he said, look, Arsenal's my first choice. So you guys can come up with something, and this is his agent, not Declan Rice. So he goes, you guys can come up with something, but my first choice is Arsenal. So Man City went into this fully well knowing that they only had half a chance of getting a player. So the bid took quite long to go through, and they didn't even change it. There was not a penny more than what Arsenal bid. It was just the payments were different. So that's very un-Man City-like, isn't it? You'd normally expect Man City to go, let's give them 100, 110, 120 million, blow Arsenal away. We're the
Yeah.
second richest club in the league. Let's show Arsenal who were the daddy, who's the Giants. No, they didn't do that, Gary. They
No,
didn't
I
do
think
that.
just because, purely and simply because obviously Rice wants to come to Arsenal. So once you can't really sign a player and he's not going to give like that 100% when he ain't your first choice. That's how I see it anyway. So that's why they backed out of it.
Yeah, they backed out of it, and so the bid was 4 days late, and it was a soft bid. It was a soft bid. There was no intent in Manchester City's bid whatsoever, and so Arsenal countered with 105 million, which had come out today. The news broke very early. In fact, when I was up at 5 a.m., that's when I heard it broke. It broke really, really early. So since then, Man City have officially pulled out. So there is, and I know Manchester United were looking to get involved. They backed away, knowing that the player already said he wanted to go to Arsenal.
Yeah.
So that's
He's
why
never
Man
going to go.
United.
He's never going to go to United.
No, he's never going to go United. So basically, guys, it's a one-horse race, and West Ham, with the third bid, never rejected it. They came back to Arsenal and said, "Look, we're going to have to do something on the payments, and once that's done, it's going to be a tied up. It's a done deal." So, guys, and look, that's for them to discuss and talk about. And Tim Lewis, Richard Garlick from Arsenal are talking to West Ham's people, and hopefully this deal will get done within the next 24 hours. But it's a one-horse race. Declan Rice will be an Arsenal player. West Ham have actually gone as far as to say that they have accepted the bid, but the terms need to be revised. So here we are, guys. We're sitting in a situation where, check this out, Gary, and I want to get your opinion on this, Gary. We are in June, and Arsenal have they bag Timber. We've already got Havertz, and if the Rice deal is agreed in June, we'd have spent 210 million.
That's very un-Arsenal like, innit? You know, obviously the penny dropped when obviously the Cronkies have taken, and Arteta and Edu have taken stock of what happened at the back end of last season and how close we actually was to surprisingly winning the title, because none of us expected it. You know, we all admit that we had a great run. We seemed to fall apart, fall a little short, however you want to put it. But going that close has obviously woken them up a little bit more. And now they're saying, look, Arteta must be saying, you know, give me these players. Yeah, we get rid of so-and-so, so-and-so, but give me these guys here. And then we can go again, younger legs, fresher legs. You know, Partey had trouble, didn't he, towards the end of the season, you know, playing so many games. He'd never played over 30 games. Xhaka, although he done really well, didn't have the legs, you know, and sometimes he was letting us down in certain situations because he didn't have the pace. Havertz is going to solve that problem. You know, yep. Rice takes over from Partey. I wouldn't sell Thomas Partey. Maybe they want to balance the books. Maybe he'll go, but I would be inclined to keep Thomas Partey and Declan Rice.
Yeah, I think that's something which Arsenal fans are like not happy with at the moment. The fact that the depth is the biggest problem. We're talking about buying all of these players, but the biggest problem is who you're losing. Thomas, you know, I don't want to go too much into the Thomas Partey thing because I talked about it last week when we had Neomis on here. But it just, for me, it just seems like you're taking one step forward and two steps backwards if you're getting rid. And actually, I would go as far to even talk about Kieran Tierney in there, because Kieran Tierney, who's worth 35 million on the market, he was in talks with Newcastle, and Newcastle have pulled out. They've gone into a different direction. Now, today, there's talks of Kieran Tierney going back to Celtic.
That would be a waste. That would be a waste for that guy.
A complete and utter waste of time. He is worth, if it was me, if I was Arteta, I would say, you're not going anywhere. You're on 60 grand a week. You're part of our squad. We're in the Champions League and we're going to need you. Doesn't matter whether he can't play inverted. Timber can. So if Zinchenko's not here, we can go inverted with Timber on the right-hand side. He can push up and help the midfield. And Tierney can play the kind of Ben White role, in the conventional back three. So there's ways how you can make it work. I don't buy the fact that you sell Kieran Tierney. A week ago, I would have said something completely different. But now, and I know, Gary, I know you're a big Kieran Tierney fan.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to keep him. I think he was hard done by last year. I didn't think Zinchenko needed to play in every game. The inverted thing, I'm not really a fan of it, to be honest. I think sometimes you just need, in certain games, you just need to defend, and Tierney is heads and shoulders above Zinchenko in that defensive role. You know, when you need a solid defender, Tierney's your man.
Yeah, so let's shout out to our boys as well. G says, I think Rice being more consistent, but yeah, I read that one out already. Tony, shout out to you. I was talking to him earlier on this evening. I hope everything is going well. Tony hates transfers, but Tony loves Arsenal players. And it seems like we have a few new Arsenal players in our ranks right now. So Tony's warming up. He won't talk transfers, but I'm sure he'll be on here to talk about what he feels about the new players. G says, I mean, until this summer, I never knew West Ham saw us as rivals. What? I was dumbfounded reading some of their comments. They're calling Rice Judas for moving to us and want to boo him when he plays against them. Nah, I don't. West Ham fans have got more class than that, bro. I know a lot of West Ham fans. They love him. Yeah,
Yeah,
they absolutely love him.
this is not on the level of Sol Campbell.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
this is a different thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't agree with that, bro. I don't agree with that. Cam says, I think that we'll be in good shape if we can offset any drop-off in goals by Martinelli, Odegaard, and Saka with better contribution from Jesus and whatever Havertz adds onto the table. Havertz is going to add a lot, providing he plays in that number 8 role. And Cam says, Declan Rice has been given permission to undergo medical at Arsenal. Is it true? Yes. From what I'm aware, they're talking about it now, so that's probably going to be something that's going to be in the talkers, because as far as personal terms goes, that was agreed over a week ago. So so I think the next step, now that West Ham have said they have agreed the deal, they just need to deal with the payments. I'm sure that they're going to tell the player to go in and get his medical booked and all of this stuff. So we're going to, within the next 72 hours, I'm sure we're going to be seeing all of that. Alfie said, yes, Gaza, yes, Apollo. What we're saying a lot, bro, because we done spent 210 million in June. Yo, listen, teams are still trying to work out their transfer budgets, and Arsenal have already spent 200 million. That's nuts, man. The African Gooner, something's wrong here because you're not smiling. And I know you love transfers. I know you love transfers.
The reason I'm not the reason I'm not smiling is because I've been living this for the past 72 hours. I've just been on Twitter. I mean, more than 72 hours for the past 2-3 weeks. You know, I've been absorbing it. So like, I'm really happy on the inside, even if it might not look like it. It's also almost like it's basically midnight for me here. So quite late, but I obviously had to jump on. Super happy. I mean, what can we say? You know, it makes my trip even more worthwhile because, you know, the team is giving back to me, the club is giving back to me, and I've given this club everything in my entire life. I've given this club a lot, and I've suffered a lot during my childhood, you know, supporting Arsenal, always getting beaten by the bigger teams, always seeing other teams buying the superstar players and us, you know, buying below average or really average players, and having to, like, you know, scrimp and make our way through top fours and you know, Champions League knockouts against Bayern and Barca every year. And this is a totally different Arsenal, you know, under the Kroenke leadership. You know, there was a part of me at one point that never thought that this would ever happen for Arsenal. And in the last 2 years, we've seen Kroenke's completely do a 360, and they started winning with all their teams. And this is something I put in our group chat as well, you know, saying that, you know, 5-6 years ago we were questioning the Kroenkes because none of their teams were successful, and now all their teams have been successful except for one team, being Arsenal. We're the last one that needs to win the major titles. So really good. I mean, if you told any Arsenal fan that would have spent 200 million in the first 2-3 weeks of a transfer window, they would have just laughed at you. And the fact that all the other teams are making fun of Arsenal is even funnier to me, because they just are so scared of Arsenal. Everyone knows that Arsenal's back, and rivals just don't want to accept it. And, you know, they keep trying to brainwash themselves that, you know, Arsenal always falter at some point, right? Like, we're going to mess up. Oh, we messed up against Man City. We came second. So next season, watch, we're not going to compete. We're going to be a top 4 team again. And now they're seeing Arsenal sign Declan Rice for a record transfer for the club and in the UK. And then also signing, Havertz for 65 million, and then Timber for 40 million. And then Arsenal's already working on Romeo Lavia for another 40 million. I mean, this is candy galore. It feels like heaven. My soul is happy. My soul
I
is
feel,
very happy, right? This is all I
I
expect and
feel
want from a club.
I feel like someone's taken me to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory and just said, Apollo, go and grab as much food as you want. I don't
Yeah,
care.
exactly. It's like when your parents take you out shopping. It's like, there's no price. Just buy what you want, right? That's
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
feels like.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
I'm
it's
really, really,
incredible. So
I'm really happy.
So we heard a little bit from the African Guna. Guys, let me know what your thoughts are on this news today that West Ham have officially agreed the deal, but they have just asked Arsenal to come back with a second option of payment installments. As far as they know, Manchester City are out. And for me, I think we were all talking about it, all the panelists at 101, we were all saying the fact that the bid was for Man City was supposed to go through on Thursday and they didn't, it took them 3-4 days to put the bid in. They had second thoughts because when they was talking to Rice, his agent said Arsenal's his first choice and that's it. So they never felt it was a half-hearted bid because they never thought the player wanted to ever come to them. And I know, yes, they're the best team in the league, but here's my opinion on that. If you're 24 years old and you want to thrive, you want to have a journey, and the journey is very important to sportsmen because the journey defines you. A journey is what you practice for, it's what you train for, it's what you dream about, all from when you was a little boy. Well, guess what? Man City achieved their journey. They've won everything there is to win in the game. Journey complete. They hit the finishing line. For Declan Rice, how does that feel? What, that doesn't feel like a challenge, does it? How does that feel like a challenge when you're walking into a team that's ready-made? So if you win next season and only play half of the games, because that's what it will be. I talked about Gundogan playing 24 games. He'll come in and he'll play 24 to 28 games because that's what all those guys are playing. De Bruyne and, those guys don't play much because they rotate so much.
Apart from Calvin Phillips.
Yeah, actually,
Calvin
Rodri
Phillips,
played
yeah.
the most. Yeah, Calvin Phillips, and so he's got this issue now where his wife, they just had a little baby. The baby's a year old. He's settled in there now. Apparently, the wife, she's talking about how they're able to still go out and have dinner and things because the in-laws look after the baby and all that stuff. So could you imagine leaving London, going up to Manchester, where your support circle is not even there? So you can, you've got no friends in Manchester. So you literally, and then his mum, Declan's mum, and then Jackie's mum, they're not around. And yeah, they'll be traveling and they can make trips up, but it's not the same as being in London. So he wants to stay in London. We knew that from weeks ago. So he's got the ability to stay in London, enjoy what he does, stay around his support circle with his wife's mum and his mum. And not just that, but the biggest thing, guys, have the journey. Join a team like Arsenal, one of the most talented teams in the world. Actually, the talented youngest team in the world. Yeah. And then go on to the journey, achieve something with them that they haven't achieved in 2 decades. That's the challenge. That's the chance that he wants to take. And that's where the hunger comes from. You can't have hunger if you're going to Manchester City, you're sitting on the bench for half of the games, and you're watching Kevin De Bruyne running around, rings around everybody and saying, oh yeah, look, yay, we won again. There's no challenge there. With Arsenal, it's going to be hunger, passion, desire, and it's going to be all about the journey. Gary?
Yeah, I actually said the same, along the same lines as what you just said there to our dear friend, young Kenneth, when he posted in one of the forums. And I actually said, I think, to be honest, it's a bigger challenge coming to us than going to City, because at City, and not only that, I think for the good of football, it's good that he hasn't gone to Man City. They can't have a monopoly on all these star players. They've already got a massive unfair advantage. They're run by a country. They've got all these financial fair play things hanging over their head. And I think for the love of football and for the good of football, it's great that Arsenal have stepped up and got a Nick Declan Rice. Yes, he wanted to come to us. We was his first choice. But when these clubs like City come in and they can just throw money about willy-nilly, they don't care. Arsenal maintain their own sort of agenda. They want to work within the rules. Fair play to them. They've gone and got it done. But I think the challenge is definitely 100,000,000% the challenge for Declan Rice is to come into this Arsenal team and turn them into winners, into champions.
Yeah, it's look, I'm just blown away at where we are right now, because I've been a supporter of all my life since 1978. I've been a season ticket holder at the Emirates from day one, and I've never seen the team operate like this. I've not seen this amount of ambition, this intent. I mean, the fans are normally used to, screaming at them to spend money, screaming at them to be ambitious. I kind of feel sorry for Robbie at Arsenal Fan TV, because he's waking up every morning with a smile on his face. He's absolutely got nothing to complain about. Gary?
You know what I mean? When you talk about the lack of ambition, I think if you go back to the early Wenger years, football was a different kind of business back then. Like now, you're talking 100 millions for these type of players. You couldn't sign a Thierry Henry for 14 million now. You couldn't sign a Dennis Bergkamp for 7.5 million. It just wouldn't happen. So we was very spoiled back in them early Wenger days when the likes of Overmars and come in for 6 million, Vieira 3 million. It was big money back in them days. It was equivalent to that, like 80, 90 million now, but you couldn't sign them players nowadays. You'd be talking stupid money. So we've seen it done. And then we went on that lull where it was the average players coming in, spending 25, 30 mils, not really getting full value for money. And now it's kicked back in and it's kind of gone back to where it was when Wenger came, but at today's prices.
And for those of you who have forgotten the Sky deal 6 years ago, so what Gary's talking about is effectively the winner of the Premier League got 24 million, and then it scaled down 500,000 all the way to 12 million. So if you were relegated, you got 12 million. If you were a mid-table team, you got somewhere around 18 million. But the winners got 24 million. Once that 5.1 billion Sky deal went off the mark, everybody got a flat 94.1 million. And then the TV revenues, how many times you're involved on TV matches, could take that up to 124 million. So could you imagine you're a team like Arsenal trying to build a stadium on a 20 million budget, which you was getting from kind of TV rights, and everything else was really pennies, because at the time we were making 3 million a year on a Nike deal for our shirts. Now you're getting 120, 30 million a year for showing up. Adidas is paying you 60 million a year. You're in the Champions League. That's another 46 million. So all this just like, whoa. So that's the reason why. Could you imagine, there is a comment here about the stadium. The stadium costs 242 million. Seriously? Arsenal's nearly spent that in 3 weeks. They've nearly spent the entire cost of the Emirates Stadium in the last 3 weeks. That's how much times have changed in the last 20 years. It's a really scary thought. Do you want to say something, African Kuna, before I go to the comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to add 2 things. I think your points on the journey and the challenge were spot on. I think for me, the main priority is game time, which I think is part of your journey, right? It's not only about having Man City having won everything. I think he wouldn't have played as much game time as he did at Arsenal. And also what I'm hearing is that Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice have been very close friends recently, and Saka has been heavy influence on convincing him to join Arsenal. So, there was even a point where a few weeks ago after one of the games, I think it was after Saka scored a hat-trick, Declan Rice posted a picture of him and Saka, and then Saka commented on his picture, red and white, basically the Arsenal colors. So, there was a lot of things, happening in the background. There's people saying that Man City really weren't ever interested, and they just were trying to push the price higher for Arsenal. At the end of the day, I'm just happy because when I'm thinking about it, when is the last time we challenged, for a player this magnitude and actually won the race for him, right?
I can't even remember.
I can think maybe Ozil, but I don't even know if anyone was really in for Ozil. It was kind of like a last minute thing, and there was an opportunity and we got it. We didn't actually like battle out with big teams like Bayern Munich, like Man City, like Chelsea, like United. You know, Chelsea and United were interested in Declan Rice, but they weren't actively involved because, as Apollo said in the beginning, I mean, Declan was just set on Arsenal, and he told everyone, "Look, I want to go to Arsenal." So Man U and Chelsea were kind of just watching in the background to kind of see what unfolded. The only real 3 teams that had a chance was Bayern, who Declan Rice told them 2-3 weeks ago, "Look, I'm not interested. I want to stay in London. I want to go to Arsenal." So they backed out early on, and then Man City, who came in, you know, in the last week or week and a half, and yeah, I mean, I can't remember a signing, you know, in the last 10 years like this, you know, and not only with the price, just the magnitude. And I am so happy. People are going to start realizing that Xhaka was not that great of a player. Once Declan Rice is in this team, no one's going to talk about Xhaka anymore. It's going to be like, you know, bye-bye, farewell, thanks for the memories. I promise you, that's what's going to happen. Within 2 months, this guy's going to be scoring bangers from long range. He's going to be just the transition, the driving with the ball, laying it on the plate for other players, the interceptions, and people are going to say, hey, oh my God, we're at a new level. You know, we needed to do this. We needed to move on. And I think that's only going to happen once Declan Rice starts performing. So for me personally, I'm really happy with that because I wanted him gone. Like I needed this upgrade 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm finally getting it now. You know?
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk to Cam. Cam says he's talking to Tony here. He says Tierney, Balogun, Lokonga, Tavares, Holding, Smith Rowe, and Vieira and Partey. Nah. Don't you're not selling Smith Rowe. You're not selling Fabio Vieira, bro. You can probably take Thomas Partey out of that equation. I wouldn't sell him. Although I know the team, once they get Declan Rice in there, they're going to look at Partey as the fact that he can go. He's 30 years old. He's still got a little bit of market value. And so they're just thinking, look, we've had a couple of good seasons out of him. Let's focus on Declan Rice now. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Should make 130 million.
Just another point. I'm sure the Xhaka stuff in the next like week or two, as soon as the Rice stuff is done, we're gonna hear that Xhaka's out of it's gonna happen because it's already ready. It's just waiting to be activated once we sign Rice. So
that's right. They're not gonna let him go when we're still short in the midfield. G says he's talking to Tom Aston. Imagine when the club was introducing Kai Havertz. Jaron Timber, Declan Rice joining in front of a camera, that would be 210 million, as I said before, spending in the early stages of one single transfer window. 210 is, that's what I said, the cost of the Emirates Stadium. Tony saying big up to 18. G saying we need to be proactive with selling the likes of Lokonga, Cedric and others. Believe me, the plan is for them to go, bro. You don't spend 200 million without an exit plan to recuperate some of that money back, bro. You just can't.
And Pepe as well. Add Pepe in there as well.
Exactly. And Pepe. Tony's in bed listening to 101.
Well, I think Pepe's contract is going to get cancelled, isn't it? They're just going to write it off, put it down to.
I'm not entirely sure if that's going to happen, Gary. I think if Saudi Arabia come with any sort of money, I think we take it. If they don't, then maybe an Italian team might be interested in him. And if that doesn't happen, then
I don't think anyone wants to pay anything for him.
Gary, I don't
think anyone will pay anything for him.
I think Saudi Arabia would get 15 million
just on the sums. So, Pepe, if we was to cancel Pepe's contract, it would cost us 7.2 million. I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, I think we can sell him for 15. Yeah, I think we can sell him for 15, 12 to 15. And also Holding going to Galatasaray, that's another one. I really hope that happens. That would be
that's a loan deal, isn't it? That was a loan deal.
It's a loan deal with money. There's money involved as well.
Yeah, I think it's a loan with a buy option at the end of 12 to 15 million. So we're gonna extend his contract for 1 year.
I think Holding's better than Besiktas or Galatasaray, whichever one it was. I think he could do a job in not Premier League, he's Championship. But he could go to Celtic, somewhere like that. He'd be good in Scotland.
Yeah, let's talk about this. I know before I joined, you guys were talking about Kieran Tierney going to Celtic, and you guys were like super opposed to that. I'm on the other side. I think it would be a good move for him because he has a really good relationship with Brendan Rodgers, who's the new coach at Celtic. Plus, it's his old club. He's loved there. It's his home. Look, it makes sense. I don't want him to go, but I can understand why it's like a realistic possibility for him to go there. And if he does go there, I want this. I want the same money. I want like 40 million, 30. I think 40 million is too much, to be honest. Between 30 to 35 million, because we paid 25 million. So I would say 30 to 35 million. If we are going to sell him, that's what I'd be looking for.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. We need, the thing is, what you guys have to remember is, in Europe last year, we really struggled to rotate, and we weren't very good in Europe. And that's the most thing I was disappointed out of anything last season. I was mostly disappointed with our inability to play 2 games a week. We weren't at that level. We just couldn't go game in, game out like we did in the Premier League and then match that intensity in the Europa League. It wasn't there. And quite frankly, I'm concerned this season because I don't think, unless we severely strengthen the team and keep our core players, that we'll be able to do that in the Champions League. It's going to be a shock to the system to us because we're not used to it. Most of the other teams are used to it. I've talked about on this channel many times before the fact that the other teams like Liverpool and Manchester City and all of those very rarely do a major rotation. When we play in Europe, we make like 8, 9, 10 changes. But when other teams play in Europe, they make like maybe 3 or 4 changes. And so those wholesale changes that we do, we can't do that. You can't go in the Champions League and make 8 or 9 changes. So I think that for me is the biggest concern. And I don't think we're ready for that. I need to see the squad, the 25 players at the end of the transfer window. I need to make sure that I'm happy with the quality of the players all the way through. Because at the moment, I'm not. That's our biggest weakness.
Can I be honest? From my perspective, after these 3 signings, if we get Timber, Rice, and obviously Havertz was official today. Well, it was actually official yesterday because it got leaked. But yeah, the rest is bonus for me. I'm happy already. I'm already happy. I think we're already strong enough to go into next season and compete on all 4 fronts. So I think everything else is a bonus for me. After these 3, I'd be happy. I think the squad is strong enough. Just get rid of all the fringe players who we know who they are, and I think we're ready to go.
So
no, I don't think that's true. That's definitely not true.
I can't see that.
That's definitely not true.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about this, Gatti. It's DJ Gatti. I haven't heard anything about this, but if I do, I'll shout it out on the channel.
So the only 2 midfielders that we are currently being linked to, apart from Rice, is Romeo Lavia from Southampton, who used to play for the Man City under 16s, and we're also linked with Xavi Simons, who is at PSG but doesn't want to stay at PSG. He used to be at the Barca Academy, and he's currently playing at Ajax. At PSV Eindhoven. So yeah,
there's been an inquiry. That's all I know is that there's been a phone call. There's been an inquiry. In fact, this summer alone, Arsenal have made 14 inquiries.
Okay,
I don't know who they all are, but I mean, we could probably sit down and guess for most of them. But that's and that would be probably the average for most teams. Most teams.
Another option maybe could be Onana. We might start hearing stuff about Onana maybe later in the window. That also might be a possibility.
I would take him in a heartbeat, man.
Yeah, I'd take him in a heartbeat. Dude, he destroyed us last season.
I know. I know. And then, did you see what he did to Brighton?
Yeah. I think
I would take Onana. Not the keeper. Bro. Not the keeper Onana, the player Onana.
Yeah, from Everton. No, the keeper Onana, he passed the boat on that one. Man U won him, which would be a good signing, by the way. And I think Tottenham also wanted him.
Right, so shout out to
Tottenham don't want to pay 45 million for nothing, mate.
No, they already signed their backup goalkeeper.
No, they signed the new goalkeeper. He's their new goalkeeper, isn't he? That
Vicario. But I mean, it was their backup. It wasn't their first choice. Their first choice was Onana, and then they were like, "No way, it's too expensive."
They didn't want to pay the money, and then it was Raya.
So guys, let's close off on Declan Rice, and then let's talk about all the other guys. So Declan Rice. So what have we got in this player? Well, first of all, we've got an elite ball winner. I've talked to them guys about his amazing statistics at 24 years old. He's led the league in passes intercepted over the last 2 seasons. His vision, the way he reads the game is just so well. And also, guys, he's been ranked in the top tackles, in the top 3 tackles for the last 2 seasons as well. So what we've got, guys, is one player who's just fills up the stat sheet at not just one part of the game, but various different parts of the game. Tackles, passes intercepted, and duels won. He's ranked in the top 5 midfielders in the Premier League in all those phases. And that's the reason why I'm interested to see what he does in place of Thomas Partey, because I'm a big Thomas Partey fan. I've seen Thomas Partey absolutely drill games. And this guy's statistics is higher. So I want to see how that translates into the eye test. The other thing, guys, is his capacity to thrive in a high pressing system. He is so good at this. And on an international level, we've seen it. At a club level, we've seen it. And Arsenal, guys, are the highest intensity pressing team in the Premier League. So I want to see how that translates as well. The third thing is, again, top 3 central midfielder for speed of switch and play. So that is transition. And that is what Thomas Partey is the don in. I think Partey is ranked number 2. So Declan Rice is ranked number 3 in that department. But again, that's something he can do. And let's remember this, guys. Partey's 30 years old, injury prone. Rice is 24 years old and played 37 games last year. He played more games than Granit Xhaka. And the season before that, he started 36 games. So this guy is bulletproof. He doesn't get injured. Let me touch wood. Yeah, touch wood. Because the last thing I need.
I was just gonna say, don't put the duppy on. Don't put the duppy on him straight away, man. He ain't even putting the shirt on yet.
And then you guys in the chat come after me for putting my mouth on it. The fourth one, guys, is played the second highest number of minutes by an outfield player in the Premier League since 2018. So in the last 5 years, he has played the second most minutes ever in the Premier League. Bulletproof. Yeah. So that's what we've got, guys. That's what we've got.
So on the Tchouaméni stuff, it's actually legit. I've just seen it. It just came out maybe 30-45 minutes ago. And it's basically saying that if we fail to sign Caicedo from Southampton or Romeo Lavia, then we've enlisted Tchouaméni from Real Madrid as a part of our transfer target list, which I can't believe, because that's going to be another 80, maybe 60 to 100 million. I don't know if we're going to spend another 100 million on him, but very interesting.
I mean, it really depends on which players we can sell, because we were, yourself, African Guna, and I was aware that there was a 200 million war chest quite a while ago. So really, it's if you translate 100 million in player sales, then you've really got another 18, 90 million more that you can spend. And let's face it, we're not taking into account players available on a free. There's quite a lot of those, and we're probably going to need a couple because the squad is just not strong enough. But then, with 90 million, you can still go out there and buy another 2 or 3 more players. So I'm expecting to see that happen. But remember, guys, 25-man roster. And if you're getting rid of 5 or 6 players, that means 5 or 6 players have to come back into the squad.
The only thing for me is that whole process is going to take a long time for me. I think, right, it's going to take us weeks to sell the dead wood, right? So then I'm assuming that signing is going to be near the end, where it's kind of the last hurrah. But if we can get someone of that quality at the end, I mean, this is already what would we say right now, if we're being honest? Is this already a 10 out of 10 window? Because I'm feeling like it already is, to be honest. I mean, like, that's how happy I am. I'm like hesitant to be like, how can I mark it less than a 10?
I mean, as to that point there, I mean, you can't grade the window till after it's finished, because if we bring in 3 and then get rid of 7, we're still short.
My problem. Yeah, and that's my problem. The squad, the squad for the Champions League is my biggest problem. So at the moment, I give the window a 9.5 because it's been
I'm saying right now, obviously it'll change throughout the way, like, every day it changes. But at this present moment in time, for me, I feel a 10. I have to.
Yeah, and guys, let's not forget, before I talk about Timber, let's not forget that we've re-signed Gabriel, we've re-signed Martinelli, we've re-signed Saka, and and obviously we've had Saliba's contract confirmed as well. The only caveat
and Ramsdale.
And
Ramsdale. Reece Nelson.
Well, Reece Nelson I wanted to talk about because he hasn't signed yet, although it's been agreed in principle. But guys, in 2 days' time, Reece Nelson will become a free agent. I do think he's going to sign. I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to stop that. But we've got all of them deals done for this summer before we actually went and spent 210 million. So from that perspective, that makes the transfer window a 9.5 out of 10 for me. What would make it a 10 is if we really put some quality players' bums on seats after this and then get rid of some of the dead wood. But
are we being greedy, Apollo? Because we already have probably the best signing of the window. I can tell you now already, Declan Rice is going to be the best signing of the window. Even like straight from now, it doesn't matter. Anyone, they can sign Neymar, they can sign Mbappe. Even maybe Mbappe is the only one maybe that could, it'll break. Mbappe to Real Madrid will break the internet as well. But honestly, I don't think the signing gets topped by anyone in the Premier League or any other league really. I'm being honest. That's not biased. That's true honesty.
Bro, listen. The Declan Rice. Let me cast yourselves back a few years ago. Do you remember when some of the biggest players was going for some of the biggest transfer fees? Arsenal were never in that discussion. When Jack Grealish, when all these players that were 80 million, 90 million, British transfer record fee and all this stuff, did you ever hear once Arsenal's name mentioned in any of those deals?
No, never.
So the fact that we are, and guys, it's not just that, but we chased off Manchester City as well. What?
But that's the Arteta factor, though, isn't it? Because when we had like Emery, he was never going to go sign Jack Grealish. It was never going to give Emery like £100+ million to spend on one player.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm just pinching myself because it just doesn't feel real. And it says, D says, not often do you see Arsenal go out and get their number one target and so quickly. Yeah, and that's important, D, because of what happened with Mudryk in the January transfer window. Yeah, I know it worked out well for us, but I'm just saying, Vlahovic the year before that, Mudryk, there was a trend of Arsenal not being able to bag their main targets. So that
not only that, Apollo, there was also a trend of Arsenal, and it became like a kind of myth, didn't it? Like everyone was thinking, look, they've thrown this bid at here, knowing they ain't going to get the player. It's just kind of like showing off without showing off type thing. Now we've gone and done it. I'm thinking, maybe they were serious all these times with them other players.
And let's be fair, we pulled out of Vlahovic because he didn't want to come. He didn't want to come to us. We weren't willing to put the extra money. Yeah, we didn't want to put the extra money up. And then Mudryk, we draw the line. We said no, we're not willing to go across that line, so we're pulling out. And the West Ham, we went the whole hog. And actually, it was the Arsenal fans that said, if they don't accept this 105 million, leave them alone, walk away. Arsenal fans were the ones, not Arsenal, but the fans were the ones that were saying, we're done. If this doesn't work out, pull out. Everybody
and that has never happened.
Never.
I've never seen us say. We've never said that. And that is so true. And that tells you everything you need to know about how much love we have, right? I was there with you, Apollo. When Arteta couldn't speak, I had goosebumps because, you'd never see something like that. I mean, just the atmosphere, the amount of love, like everyone is united. We can see what's happening. We're happy with it. It's what we're asking for. So, I mean, the fact that, and I agree as well, right? I mean, all Arsenal fans said, look, if they don't accept this, just bun them, just give them the middle finger and just walk away. We can spend that money somewhere else. So,
that's it. I mean, if they don't want to come up from 18 months and Arsenal don't want to come down from 48 months, there's got to be room in the middle. They can't expect Arsenal to just go, well, there you go, 18 months. and they're getting their whole way. They've got to come up a bit. Arsenal got to come down a bit. It's as simple as that.
18
Maybe you
months
meet
is
in the middle.
absolutely unrealistic, Gary. I don't think any club in the world, even a team like Man City, who, as you said, are run by a country, even they wouldn't pay that whole amount in 18 months. It's just unrealistic. So
it's
definitely they're
unrealistic.
going to have to find a middle.
But that's what I'm saying. So, but if West Ham dig their heels in, Arsenal should just say, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. Goodbye. And then let Rice go put in a transfer request, kick up some stinking West Ham's office, and then watch them soon come running back. Oh yeah, please, we want to take your money. You know, they thought they were smart because they went to Fulham, didn't they, for that Palhinha? And Fulham turned around and went, give us 90 million. They thought they were going to make big change.
And let's be fair, they're going to want that money for Rice so that they can go and find a replacement. But I think having Manchester United and Man City come into the bargaining tool has given West Ham an extra 15 million, because 90 million was where that deal was at.
Yeah,
you know, we were happy with it. Because remember, guys, West Ham initially valued them at 80 million. That's why we offered it, because it was in principle when we talked to them in January and said, look, you know, this is what's going to happen. We're going to come in for this player. What's the valuation? They said, Sullivan said 80 million. And it was because all this foolishness was done with Chelsea, with Enzo, and all this silliness with Mudryk. West Ham went, you know what? Our player's worth more than that. Our player is on a Grealish level. In order for them to take our player and our
English
captain
tax.
and our talisman, exactly. You know, it's gonna.
Damn that English tax, man! Damn that English tax.
Yeah.
You gotta pay, man. You gotta pay.
So, guys, let's talk about Timber. This one is on the horizon and could be completed by tomorrow. So Ajax valued him at 50 million. We came in with 30 million, and Arsenal now have offered. It says here 48 million. That's actually incorrect. 45 million euros is around 40 million pounds. Yeah. So it's a 40 million bid, which is meeting Ajax halfway in between. Now, it's a compromise. And I think what's got Arsenal fans excited is two things. One, because they've told Arsenal that they can talk to the player about personal terms. And two, and this is the most important thing, guys, Ajax haven't rejected the bid. So it looks like now everyone's going to be singing because Timber is going to be on his way. And there were 3 other teams in for him. And apparently he's told all those teams, including Bayern Munich, that he wants to sign for Arsenal. Isn't that nice when players have told the teams that want to get them not interested? Arsenal's the team that I want to play for. I mean, it almost feels like a privilege for us to have players that want to play for Arteta. And it's all about Arteta. Let's not make no bones about it. It's all about Arteta.
No,
so guys,
we can't say that. I like 70% Arteta, but also the team, right? I mean, you want to play with the players in the team.
But who made the team?
Coach has a big play, but you also want to play with Martinelli and Odegaard and Jesus and Declan Rice. So yeah, I mean, you just want to be a part of Arsenal. That's it. I think that's a fair statement to say.
Yeah,
Timber looks like a player as well, man.
So, Gary, let me get your thoughts first. Your thoughts on Timber. And guys, he can play right back. He can play centre back. He has started 3 games as defensive midfielder as well. So he can also play the inverted role on the right-hand side, which is why I said there's a case that you can have Kieran Tierney play the Ben White role and be the stay-at-home left back while Timber inverts on the other side. So there's ways that you can do it. What's your thoughts on this one, Gary?
Yeah, obviously, you know, when your team's linked with a player, you go on the old YouTube, don't you? And you have a look at their skills and highlights reel. And what I saw from this guy, I was very impressed. You know, good turn of speed, some good tackling. I know the Dutch league is slightly more inferior than the Premier League, but I think that he would be a real good signing. He looks like a real good player. You know, and like you say, the inverting thing, and on the highlight, he was playing a lot at left back.
Yeah, he can play all across the line, man.
Yeah, so you're signing one player that can play in 4 different positions, which is always a bonus. You know, injuries, you can cover centre midfield, you can cover left back, centre back, either side. right back. He can invert. He's the kind of player that's got it all. So yeah, I'll be very happy to see this young man come in.
Yeah, and Latin African Guna, when you look at someone like Tomiyasu, you now got another player that you can play, and not just Tomiyasu, Kiviar as well.
He's better than Tomiyasu. He's
Yeah,
better than Tomiyasu.
he is.
Yeah.
But my case is you've got Kiviar, Tomiyasu, and Timber who can play left back, centre back, right back. So you can play it all across the line. That's the type of versatility. Yeah.
I have a lot to say on this actually, but first let me address Bertram's point. So in terms of Bertram's point, the 80 million, which is I don't think 80 million, it is 90 million, or let's say between 80 and 90 million. That's what, as Apollo said, West Ham wanted in January. Then he's right. They said after they won that European trophy that they went crazy about, that just came into life maybe like, what was it, the first season that competition was in the stadium? It was the first season, right?
Let's not forget that Spurs fouled in that competition.
Yeah, they got, West Ham fans got really big-headed.
Let's not forget that.
So after they won that, they said the 120 million, and then obviously, as you said, Apollo, we put that bid in. Basically that was the bid that we had agreed maybe in January, and it was kind of a test of waters that, look, this is what we're willing to pay, and they said no, maybe not the 120 million, but the 100 million. A couple points on Timber. So the second bid went in maybe 3-4 days ago, definitely advanced. I think there is a release clause that comes into play on the 1st of July. So I'm not really sure how that's going to go, because if it drags on a bit longer, then I think we just pay the release clause. Instead of just negotiating with bids. So I'm not too sure on how that's going to happen. But maybe a little secret that you guys don't know. Over the weekend, I was on Instagram, and I went on Jurriën Timber's Instagram profile, and I saw that on his last post, he had posted a song by Gunna called Gunna Go Crazy. And I posted that on Twitter, and it went viral, basically as a hint that he was saying that he's gonna be a gunner, right? The Gunna Go Crazy gunner. And it went viral, like 5,000, 6,000 likes on it. And The Sun actually wrote an article on it. So I was the source of that, which was really cool. So,
now he's smiling. Look, now he's smiling.
Hey, laughing is big time, man.
I'm pretty certain that it's gonna happen. I think Fabrizio Romano today reported that, look, it's pretty much at a really advanced stage.
Yeah.
And Arsenal are just looking to conclude the Rice deal, and as soon as the Rice deal is done, that deal is the next one that's going to be done. So honestly, maybe even by the end of this weekend, both might be done. We might be seeing announcements, over the weekend or early next week, and our business is 70%, 65-70% of the way there already. So yeah, I think this one is done and dusted. Great player. I think something that we haven't touched on as well is that all the players that we're buying, they start for their international teams. That is a big factor for me when I look at how good a player is. If you're starting for your international team, it means something to me. It doesn't mean obviously that you're the best player in the world, but it shows a level of standard and quality of the type of players that we're looking to buy, right? So those are good signs. And as you said, Apollo, he plays everywhere. No diss on Tomiyasu, because I love Tomiyasu. I think they are different players, but I think he's a better all-round player than Tomiyasu is. Tomiyasu is a good defensive player. Yeah, he can go forward and he can cross. He wins a lot of aerial duels. Timber has the ball playing ability that Tomiyasu
he's good with the ball
necessarily doesn't. So
it's a shame that Tommy can't stay fit. He would have been a weapon. He would have been a weapon towards the back end of the last season if he was available.
But so much strength, and again, the age profile of all these players are going into their peak, right? Like, I watched a video by Tifo IRL, which was great. It showed how the average age of the Arsenal squad and the average age of squads in general when they're at their peak, and Arsenal is just starting to get into that, right? And Man City is just getting out of that.
Was it most? Is it between 27 and 29? In it, where most players peak.
It's 26, 29.
Yeah, 26 to 29. So and part of that, the nuance is that Arteta knows this, and this is part of the strategy and the thinking that from a fan level, we don't think about these things. We just go buy a player. But Arteta's planning and he's seeing this. He's learned this obviously from Guardiola or learned this on his own. Like he's learned this somewhere, and he's at such a high level that he's able to think this through and say, look, for our squad planning, this was the strategy over the 5 years. This is the type of players that we want. This is the age, because in 3 years, when we have the squad that I want, they're going to be going into their peak, and we're going to be competing for the highest honors. Again, like it's just incredible to see how a few years ago we were like, oh, Arteta's first job is too big at Arsenal, Edu, sporting director, too big. And now we're like, our mouths are shut. Actually, my jaw is on the floor. And the same has to be said about Josh Kroenke as well, right? I mean, no one.
He's the man.
Yeah, he's the man. He's the man. He's doing
without him, none of this happens. None of it.
You know, I had a lot of appreciation posts on Twitter for all three of them today, because I think a lot of credit has to be down to them. And people are like, no, it's not Edu, it's Arteta for Declan Rice. But look, why do people still need to find negativity? You know, this is amazing. There's no reason to be nitpicking. Edu is as much as a part of this as anyone else. You know, even Richard Garlick.
It's teamwork, isn't it?
You know?
It's teamwork.
Yeah,
Start from Arteta and Edu. And then just was the one that walked in and finished it.
And the guy nobody talks about, which is Tim Lewis as well. Yeah, he works in tandem with Richard Garlick, and those are the guys who are actually punching the numbers. So we know that Ralstonelli financially got this team into the crap house, and Dick Law before him did exactly the same thing. But these guys are looking after Arsenal finances. They're the ones that are coming up with the money. They're the ones that are paying these wages. They're re-signing our current players, our young players that have re-signed contracts. It's down to Tim Lewis and Richard Garlick. So I think that is brilliant work from those guys. Not enough fans are talking about them. So it's really good that we're giving them.
I have a couple of points on my head. The first one is about Ralstonelli, who apparently is wanted at Everton. That is hilarious because they obviously didn't see what he did with us with Nicolas Pepe. The other point that I wanted to make that's been on my mind is something that I'm thinking about. The last big announcement that I remember, like a really awesome viral announcement video, was Aubameyang. That Aubameyang announcement video was something else, right? The Yo Pierre with Mkhitaryan. And I mean, I honestly believe if Arsenal do this right, this Declan Rice announcement video is going to break the internet. That is how big this is going to be. And if they do it right, it's going to be historical. So I'm really excited, and I hope the social media team, work really well on that, because they messed up the Havertz stuff. I don't know if they obviously went to Kepa's wedding, probably had a lot of drinks, and accidentally released the whole thing because it was available last night around 2 a.m.
I know, yeah, that was really poor. Yeah.
Well, someone just posted on my socials, the We Buy Any Car, but it was, we bought your star for Mikel Arteta, which I thought was quite funny.
I can't wait to hear that.
People are very clever in this world. Like when you're on Twitter, you realize that some people's creativity and ideation is beyond imagination sometimes. It's really fun, right? To watch and witness that, especially if it's for something that you're passionate about.
So guys, before we go into the squad, we're going to close off the show now by going into the squad and getting the views and thoughts of the panelists here and seeing how we're going to open up the season. The season, guys, which actually is only 6 weeks away. So it's funny.
Forget this season. I can't wait for preseason.
Yeah, it starts next week. They're gonna
30th of July, first game, isn't it?
Yeah, Nuremberg. Yeah. And we're going to see Balogun playing. He left the national team to make sure that he makes preseason. I think that's incredible.
Yeah. So guys, so for me, one of the biggest things is I remember when we were after Maddison, who's actually just signed for Spurs today for 40 million. They wanted Arsenal to pay 70 million for him. And I was one of the first Arsenal fans when a lot of people were saying, 70 million, get it done. I said, no, take that money and go and buy Odegaard and a few other players. And we bought Odegaard, Ramsdale, and Tomiyasu with that 70 million. So when I step back and have a look and see what's going on here now, the money that we would take to buy Lavia and Timber is the same cost that it would be for Caicedo. So let that sink in, guys. The Caicedo money, would be exactly the same amount, 40 million for each player, for Timber and for Lavia. that we would cost to buy Caicedo. So that's the reason why, if Arsenal fans are asking questions like, why aren't we going in for Caicedo? Why aren't we entering that? Why aren't we blah, blah, blah? It's because there's just no value in spending that amount of money on a player like that when you can get young players just as good who can fit into the squad, and you can have then multiple players and then strengthen your squad in multiple positions. Right, so let's move now to get everyone's opinion on how we can open this season this year. Now, let's take in mind, guys, that Saliba is apparently not going to be ready until the end of August, from what I've heard. So that means that if Timber comes in, he's probably going to be starting.
Sorry, what do you mean by the end of August? He's already been seen training. He's already been seen training.
He's training, yeah, but he's training. But we've been told it's going to be at least
training and playing is two different things, isn't it?
No, yeah. I think he's going to be part of preseason. He's going to be playing in preseason, so I would expect him to start when the season starts.
Yeah, I wouldn't. From what I was told yesterday, I wouldn't expect him to start.
Okay, interesting.
And look, and if he does, he does. But if he doesn't, then I would expect Timber to start.
Yeah, of course.
So let me get your thoughts on this first, Let African Goon, and then we'll go to Gary afterwards.
Beautiful.
Talk me through the starting lineup. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts from bottom to top. Ramsdale just got married. Congratulations to him, and also gonna be having a kid pretty soon. People were giving him a lot of flack. He's absolutely incredible. He's the most valuable goalkeeper in the world right now. That's above Ederson. That's above Alisson. The people still don't give him his flowers. Yeah, I think sometimes he does get maybe bored and he takes a bit of chances and stuff. But hey, I mean, that's just part of his character. And he's young still. He's only going to get better. So without a doubt, I'm happy with that. Ben White is a very interesting one because who knows if Timber ends up just, if Saliba is fit, does Timber go straight in and displace White? I don't think so, but that's only because I haven't seen Timber enough, right, to make that call. But I think Ben White obviously has been really, really great as well. He also just got married, by the way.
In fairness, you can swap them and put them in either position.
That is true.
Ben White center. Yeah.
But I would agree on that as well. Gabriel also got married recently. Like the whole defensive line and Kiwior as well. They all got married in the past month. It's really funny, actually. So, I mean, this back four is exactly what I would expect, apart from if Saliba's fit and Saliba goes in. And then it's maybe interesting to see if White starts over Timber, which I think he does, because we know how Arteta is. He's not going to just he's not going to just remove you out of the starting lineup for no reason, unless Timber is just that much better than Ben White. I don't see it happening, at least for now. He's going to have to earn his way into the team. Oh my God. My mouth is watering just looking at the center of the screen, because that player right there, he's going to become my new star boy. Usually my star boys are attacking players, players that score, because I'm an attacking player. So obviously I love attacking players, AKA my client Martinelli and Saka. Those are my two real star boys. But Declan Rice already has a place in my heart. I just can't wait to see him play. He's going to be loved so much more than Xhaka. I keep saying this point, but you just don't understand. He's going to be so loved. He's already a legend. Declining Man City, declining Bayern Munich for Arsenal, coming in straight into the starting 11, being an English player, playing in the English national team. I mean, dude, everything is just lined up perfectly. So I'm really happy to see his face there. Really excited. The only thing, for the other two, I think Odegaard stays on the right, and I think Havertz is on the left. Odegaard and Havertz are both left-footed, but obviously Odegaard plays on the right, so I would switch those two around, but totally makes sense. The only thing here, maybe if Thomas Partey is still at Arsenal, does Havertz start on the bench and then ease his way into the starting 11 as the season comes along? Maybe, right? So we see that Declan Rice, Thomas Partey situation, The other thing is it might depend on who we're playing with. We have really easy games in the beginning. If it's home games, I don't think Partey starts. I think we go for the attacking lineup. We play Havertz and Odegaard and we let Rice sit. But if we're playing against a low block or a much tougher team, then maybe we play with Partey and Rice. I mean, that's ideally if I was the coach, that's what I would do. And then the front three speaks for itself. Look, people still, shitting on Jesus, man. I don't understand. Honestly, last season during preseason, he was untouchable. Those goals he scored against Chelsea, I still remember them, and they weren't even official games. They were season. That's how good he was. He was untouchable against Crystal Palace, against so many teams. He just took players out. Like, he didn't get a lot of goals, but he attracts so many players and takes them out of the game, and then he just puts it on a plate for either Martinelli and Saka, and then he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves. I think and I've said this before, I don't think he's at the same level after his injury, but he's slowly getting there. And I think, this talk about having a new striker and stuff, it's not happening, guys. I mean, we can't be greedy. Not all of it is going to happen this summer. I honestly don't think we go and get another striker. If we get another attacking player, it's probably going to be a backup for Saka, and that might even be Havertz. It might end up being Havertz that plays as a backup for Saka as well. So, yeah, for me, this is a beautiful lineup. I'm really hoping that Jesus starts the season strong and scores goals and assists, because I think he deserves a bit more recognition. People are very harsh on him, and that's just my personal feeling. And obviously, sorry, Martinelli. I don't have to say much on Martinelli. He's my favorite player. Since the moment I saw him in the Arsenal team under Emery, I knew he was going to be a top player. I still am upset that Arteta, gave him some time on the bench, because I still don't buy into this narrative that, he wasn't ready, blah, 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 blah. Yes, he wasn't ready. He still had to learn tactics. He still had to learn a lot of things, but he was so good, so much better than the rest of the players anyways, that you should have still played him. Even if he wasn't ready, he was still better. He would have still done more for us at the time. That's my only thing. I don't disagree with Arteta that he still had to learn and stuff. I just think that he was that much better than what we were playing with, that you had to play him. So therefore, Arsenal won the game, or Arsenal had an impact. But Martinelli broke his PR with goals. I think he's going to have another flying season, scoring goals, assists, etc., etc.
Yeah. So, Gary, what's your thoughts on this team sheet?
I like the look of the team. I think the midfield with Rice, obviously holding, and with the other two either side of him, obviously, like African Good has said, Odegaard on the right, where he's got a fantastic little relationship with Saka, and Havertz on the left. I think the team just speaks for itself, really. The only difference I would have, if Saliba's fit, he obviously comes in, and I would play Timber over Ben White. I think Ben White sometimes just lacks a bit of defensive skills and can be sloppy in some areas. So I would be inclined to put Timber over White. But Ramsdale, exceptional. He was part of the main reason, one of the main reasons, I should say, why we went so close to the title. I mean, some of the saves that this kid's pulled off have just been unbelievable. Up at Liverpool, Southampton at home, where he
Aston
made
Villa,
Bournemouth. Bournemouth, he has kept us in some games, and he fully deserves his new contract and everything that's happening to him. Gabriel, I think he was immense last year. He was an absolute rock. Hardly put a foot wrong. Zinchenko done okay. Could have been better defensively, and hopefully he can sort of make that part of his game a little bit better. Odegaard, 15 goals, 15 Premier League goals. Should have been more. Missed a couple of sitters, did he, towards the end?
Yeah. Harsh, but
well, when you're 3 yards out and you can't beat the keeper, that's a sitter to me. You should be burying that.
But Gary,
he's young.
Gary, he tied the most goals scored by a central midfielder since.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. He should have beat it. He should have beat it.
Yeah,
he missed a couple of.
He could have, but I wouldn't get onto him. He could have.
No. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not getting onto him. I think he's a fantastic player. Creates. If he can carry on scoring 15 to 20 goals a season, what a wonderful return that is. Hopefully, Havertz can kick in, playing in a bit more of a dynamic team than what Chelsea were. He's going to get opportunities that Xhaka had last season. I mean, there was a couple of games, weren't there? Remember, towards the end, we was watching and thinking, like, why has Xhaka declined to shoot?
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a period just before the World Cup and a period just after the World Cup in the new year where Xhaka just went missing for 6 to 8 games. And we were talking about it. And then he has this spurts. Xhaka normally sort of had these spurts where he just, the goals would start coming to him, and at important moments as well. And another thing as well, when Xhaka went missing for the 6 to 8 games, when he started to come back into form, it was his defensive play. There were sometimes that Xhaka got back and he just made these stunning defensive tackles out of nowhere. And you were just like, was that really Granit Xhaka? You know, because you couldn't
Didn't
believe
commit a
that.
foul? Holy crap.
Yeah. You know, so there were times, but you did have that drop off from him where times of the season he did go missing.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure. Look, you've got a true number 8. I talked about Kai Havertz, the fact that when he was in Germany, when Chelsea bought him for 75 million, that was when he was playing as a number 8. So the fact that we've got him here and we're going to give him a chance in that position, you're going to get an Ozil type performance. Essentially, with this system, you're playing with 2 number 10s.
Yeah,
that's what you're essentially doing. So the system might change slightly a little bit, but remember, when we're in possession, which will be a lot, the team plays in a sort of a 2-3-5, don't they? So these wing backs that you see here, so the Zinchenko's would be up supporting Martinelli and Odegaard. White would be up supporting Hazard and Saka. Rice will be the kingpin. He'll be the cog in the machine. And then it would be Saliba and Gabriel who would be watching for the long balls. Why we struggled at the back end of last season, because Saliba went out.
Saliba.
Yeah, and then you had Rob Holding in, and then we started getting susceptible. That's why we got destroyed against Man City. That's why we struggled, various amount of games, because you just didn't have those safety nets back there. And so that's the design and the tactics of the team and the shape. And hopefully we'll get that back, because that's what.
Yeah,
that's
but
what
in saying that, Apollo, don't you think that when you haven't got the personnel at your disposal, as the manager, you should be saying, right, we're going to play a different way. We're going to change our style because we haven't got safety net there.
Yeah, we didn't have the players. Yeah.
You know, I think that falls on Arteta to hopefully he's learned big lessons from last season. Well, with squad rotation,
we didn't have the squad to do that, right? We had
but what I'm saying, African Guna, is if you haven't got Saliba there to mop up, with that ball over the top, then you have to change your style to say, right, White, you ain't gonna go forward no more. You've got to sit and support Rob Holding. Yeah. You've got to tailor what you've got to fit what you need it to fit at what precise time you need it to fit that model.
Yeah. So look. My opinion is, I look at this team sheet, guys. I don't see many weaknesses in there. I really don't see any weakness. I can't see something that a team can exploit. Even when Zinchenko was pushing up, and then teams were exploiting that. That was because we were having some serious difficulties without Saliba in the team. So Gabriel had to counter for the fact that Rob Holding was next to him. And then he had Zinchenko booting up forward. And then he had to cover that as well. So Gabriel was really stretched in terms of his range, his position.
And let's be honest, also Thomas Partey was also having phases where he wasn't the greatest. So when Zinchenko was bombing forward, Thomas Partey was struggling, and with Rice there, I think with Zinchenko going forward, we're going to have so much more comfortability with Rice just covering that space, man. It's just such a game changer.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions here that we've got to tackle. I think, who is this? Let me find out who this is. This is Amro Babu. Nice to hear from you, bro. I hope everything is going well. He says, what's y'all's thoughts on Xavi Simon? Is there any foot on that link? Well, there is, because we did inquire about him. But the only problem is he's actually leaving PSG for the same problems he would have at Arsenal. He's talking about, I'm not playing enough. Do you understand what I'm saying, that Finguna? He's going to leave there, and then he's going to come to Arsenal and have exactly the same problem. So I think the problem is when you play for any top team, your positioning and the amount of games you play, they're just not going to be guaranteed. So who knows where he ends up?
So some inside scoop from what I know is that Arsenal definitely are interested in him. They've been watching him. He has a £5.1 million release clause at PSG. He's already told PSG that he's not interested in staying. He is interested in Arsenal, but he does want some guarantees of game time. PSV have told him that he's going to be the captain if he stays next season. I'm not sure if the release clause is the same for other clubs. I think it's only for PSG, but basically if you pay around that price, you should be in the running for him. So the only issue is that we have too many players in his positions. The only way it would work, even though he wouldn't get the guaranteed time, if he was willing to come to Arsenal, is if we loan out Fabio Vieira, and then it would give space for him. Otherwise, I don't see how it happens, because we're not going to sell El Neni either. So yeah, it's interesting. And
I think when you sign these players that want guaranteed play time and they don't get it, it just causes disruption. You're better off staying away from them. All told.
He's talented though. I like him. I'd definitely like to see him at Arsenal, but he won't. If we were in the Europa League, he would have 100% been starting in those games. But we're in the Champions League now, so he ain't gonna be playing unless it's League Cup and FA Cup in the beginning rounds of the FA Cup, and maybe a few games in Prem. No, not even. I don't even think he would ever maybe get into the Prem team. So yeah, I'm very doubtful that we'd get him. But it's one to keep an eye on. If there's an opportunity for Arsenal, and he's willing to accept being part of the project and waiting his time, and just being part of the squad until next season and getting little game time till then it might be something that's interesting. But I think he's guaranteed game time at so many other decent clubs. So
exactly, and that's the reason why. I mean, we were in talks with Marco Asensio, and he was available on a free, and a lot of things happened there. And then obviously he's ended up going somewhere else. But there's going to be.
But why? Well, I don't understand that either. He's not even going to play at PSG. I know.
It's a money thing.
But these are the things that we have to crack.
I wanted him as a backup for Saka.
These are the things we have to crack. We have to get ourselves involved in that free market, because we've got so much quality spaces to fill that we are going to need a couple, maybe 2 players on a free, just to fill the quality in the squad. This one is for Gary. Question: is Holding going to get sold now, and will Gabriel lose his place to Timber?
Absolutely. That narrative is beyond me. I'll
I don't know. Let Gary answer it first.
There is no chance that Gabriel loses his place to anybody. Timber's going to be a main threat to Ben White. I think by the sounds of what we've said and what we've seen, he's more adaptable than Ben White, playing inverted, and he's better on the ball with a better range of passing. So that would be a threat to Ben White. Holding, yes, I think it's time now for Rob Holding to move on. I think he's been a great servant for the 7 or 8 years he's been at Arsenal. But the club's moved on, and unfortunately he's lacking what we require. But I think he's only ever let us down once. That was against Spurs last year, when he got sent off, but then he did get elbowed first, and I knew Apollo was going to say that, so I thought I'd get it in there quickly.
If you get elbowed first, it was still reckless. He cost us the Champions League, and he cost us again this season.
So, try no TV. I'm always going to support and back up Rob Holding, because I'm a big fan of his. I'm a good friends with his agent Clive. So there are about 4 teams currently in for him at the moment. 2 of them are in Turkey. Galatasaray, I believe, is the other team. Belchaskes are talking about him on loan. As far as we're aware, Arsenal has given him the permission to go on loan, and it is Rob Holding's decision whether he goes or not. So there could be a time, there could be the fact that he could stay at Arsenal, but then it doesn't seem like he's going to get much playing time. And the thing about Rob Holding is, what people have to understand is, it's not so much the playing time as well. It's the way he galvanizes the guys in training.
Yeah.
He does at the training ground.
It's behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, behind the scenes. He's
sometimes
just because
of
that.
There's no
African
need,
Gooner.
There's no need for that African Gooner. Yeah,
African Gooner. Sometimes what goes on behind the scenes is more important than what goes on the pitch.
We have other players. We have Jorginho. No. We're going to have Declan Rice. We have other players to do with this. We have Thomas Partey, who's an experienced veteran.
No, it doesn't work like that.
It really doesn't work like that.
It doesn't.
It really doesn't work like that.
Sometimes when you're a manager like Arteta, you've got players like El Nene. Like, why do you think they offered El Nene an extra extension?
Yeah, but Apollo, that's my point. We already have too many of them. Like, why keep extras when like El Neni is the same as Holding? He brings the same thing.
Guna, it's about one word. It's about culture. And that thing is so important to a team that having to do the right things, speaking to the right people. When any player has problems, do you know who they go and speak to? Rob Holding. It's just what happens around there behind the scenes that makes the club who they are. And the fans don't really get to see all of those things. And so when we hear this player's got an extension, that player's got it. It's the reason. Remember when you lot wanted David Luiz to go?
Yeah,
and I said, no, he cannot go. He has to stay. It's because of those things that I've just talked about. So, when they talked to Saka, when Saka signed his original contract, and they said to him, who's the most important person to you around the club? He said, David Luiz. I was like, thank you. Bang on. Because those are the things that are important to young players. So, look, it's up to Rob Holding if he goes. That would be his decision. And we'll have to wait to see what happens. And
so a couple of thoughts from my end. I think one, it's fine if those players add to the culture, but I don't want to see them playing. My issue is that he plays and then he costs us, and that's why I'm
hold on, whoa.
No, I don't mind if he's in the background like El Neni and he's just chilling and he's helping with the culture. Yes, yeah, but don't.
How did Rob Holding cost us? How did Rob Holding cost us? Did he play on his own or something? Did he play on his own? Was it Rob Holding versus everyone else? No, African dude. No.
Guys, let's move on to the next question, guys.
Hey, let me answer that question first. I didn't even get to answer the question. So, yes, I would sell him, but I don't think Arsenal will. I think they'll extend his contract and then loan him out. By the way, that 12 to 15 million, if we got that, I'd be going crazy because I think that's way too much for him. I mean, that's crazy. So, yeah, let's see what happens.
So guys, the last question that we've got is from Cam. It says, can we survive without Thomas Partey? That's a really strange question. I don't think. Well, first of all, no one player makes a team. Yeah, so we do know that much. People lose their best players all the time. I think in the case of Thomas Partey we've never really seen the best of him because of the injuries. Yeah, for 75% of this season, he was our best player. Past Christmas, he was being compared to Casemiro and Rodri as the three top midfielders in the league. That's, Declan Rice wasn't in that discussion. he was never in that discussion, bro. The discussion was
Rodri. Now he leads that discussion, by the way.
Well, we'll have to see. He has to prove that African Guna. He's got to prove that now. But the fact is, the three top guys in that discussion was Casemiro, Rodri, and Partey. So it's a very difficult question to answer because Arsenal have never had the benefit of a Partey throughout a whole season. He dropped off sadly with 6 games to go on this one. Had he maintained that form, things may have been different. Had Saliba not been injured, things may have turned out different. But listen, that being said, what we have to understand now is no one man makes a team, and that Thomas Partey believes that his time here has ended. And that's the problem. That's where I had to let go, because I won't let go of Thomas Partey. To me, this team is not the same without him. But when you've got a situation where the player has been dealing with personal problems and he has things going on in his personal life, and then he's made the decision that that's what he wants to do, then I got to respect that. So for me, can we survive without him? My answer is we're going to have to. There's no choice.
There's no choice, yeah.
Yeah.
Gary, you want to go?
Yeah, I think Partey. I've just have to echo what Apollo's just said because it's bang truth. 75% of the season, the guy was immense. We see him destroy teams. He run games. He was everywhere we needed him to be. And then he fell off a cliff. And if he's made up his mind that he wants to go, you have to respect his wishes. If he's going to go Saudi, I mean, Juventus was offering 15 million euros and they're having a laugh.
40.
No, Juventus. I read 15.
Juventus was 18 to 20.
Yeah, so if he's going to get rid of him to the highest bidder, and reinvest the money. Happy days. But thank you for your service, Thomas Partey.
So
Yeah.
my perspective is, yes, we can survive without Thomas Partey because there's no one player that's bigger than the club. That's always been one of our major principles at Arsenal. We've survived selling many top players at Arsenal, and we've managed. But the second point to that is that would it be a smart and intelligent decision? No, I don't think so. Regardless of the fact that I don't think he starts in this team anymore. I think he is an incredible backup player or rotation / squad player in the team when you're in the Champions League, who has played in the Champions League, him and Jorginho being the only two, and Havertz obviously now, and Jesus and Zinchenko being the only players that have experienced the Champions League. With his age and stuff, I think he would still be a great asset. I think there's some statistics around that he's, out of the 3 seasons that Arsenal have had Thomas Partey, he's missed an entire season, if you put all his injuries together. And that means that he's not reliable sometimes. As much as I hate to say that, as a manager, he's not reliable. You can't rely on him because when it comes push comes to shove, and we've seen Arteta push him back on the field, against Spurs, last season or 2 seasons ago. Like you need these type of players to be in the squad, right? So I think, as Gary said, 40 million at Saudi Arabia. People, when I said that would be a good deal, people were like jumping on me like, "Oh, are you crazy? He's worth 50 million, 60 million." No, come on, we got to be realistic. We paid 40 million for him. That was 3 years ago. He's aged 3 years. He's injury prone now, because before, when we bought him, he never got injured ever.
Never got injured.
Yeah, but I think that's just playing in the Premier League. It's a different standard from playing in Spain, isn't it?
That's without question. The point is, what is he worth? He is worth 40 million, not in your 5-year, 3-year installments. Hello, Saudi Arabia, who do you think we are? If you want him, pay up the money legit, like you're paying up the money for those.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's actually worth more than that, because if you go to Man United and say to them how much you want for Casemiro, they're not going to say 40 million. If you went to
Casemiro won Champions Leagues, man.
If you went to Man City, if you went to Man City and said how much you want for Rodri, they wouldn't say 40 million. So I don't think.
No, but Paulo, how are you comparing
Arsenal still everyone on the cheap.
You just want a treble. Of course he's worth more. Like, Rodri's worth more because he's part of Man City. Their team is worth overall more, and he just won a treble. And he's been winning the Premier League 5 out of 6 seasons. I think realistically, Partey is worth 40 or 45 million.
I'd take 40 million for Partey all day long at 30 years old. All day long.
Yeah, because he's much.
On Gary's point about Juventus, absolutely. Like, that's a piss take. I hope, Edu, if they came to the negotiating table, we should backslap them if they offered us that.
That's it. 15 million euros, and they must be having a laugh.
Right, guys, we're closing down the show now. Thank you for all of your comments. Let me get Gary's last closing comments. Gary, what's your overall feeling about where we are today? It's good to be a Gunner today, man. It's good to be a Gunner.
Extremely good to be an Arsenal fan today. I'm glad we got the Rice saga closed early doors. It seems to have dragged on for like 7 months, but really it's only been like 7 days. Happy to see him come through the door. Let's get another few in. Watch who we go out. Watch who goes out, I should say. Don't want to get rid of too many, and then you leave yourself in the same position, which doesn't make any sense. Looking forward to pre-season and looking forward to the season to start as a whole. I think Arteta learned a few lessons from last season. Better squad rotation is needed. Get the players that are not playing regularly more minutes, so when they are called upon, they're ready. And let's see if we can push for the title again.
African Guna, what's your thoughts so far? I tell you what, I'm flying out to Greece next week for a week for holiday. And we can all put our feet up now, can't we? We've had a good summer.
Absolutely. Part of my closing comments was when we were talking about Xhaka, I just realized and remembered that we saw him score those 2 goals, and I still smile because I just can't believe that my first live Arsenal goal I saw was Granit Xhaka scoring for Arsenal. And he scored 2 goals, and we both looked at each other like, can you believe can you believe it?
Can you believe
I was reminiscing that when you were talking about his ups and downs, and I think it was just really funny, just based on my history of what I think about him, and that whole experience, I think is just very funny. But closing comments is, as you said, like, extremely happy with the business that Arsenal has done. I'm extremely excited for preseason. You know, without Arsenal playing, life feels very empty. You know, forget about the other teams. I really don't give a crap about watching the other teams. I just watch the other teams because Arsenal's not playing, right? And I'm really excited for preseason. I think, you know, Nketiah is working really hard right now. I'm really impressed. He's posting pictures of him training instead of being on holiday. He's putting in the work. He knows Balogun is coming to take his place in this team. And that's what I love about this new Arsenal team, this competition. They know they have to be on their A game, or they're just going to get shipped out by Arteta. They're going to be sold, or they just won't get game time and they're going to sit around. I'm really happy with the business that we've done. You know, the Declan Rice today, the news about Timber and Declan Rice, it felt like Thanksgiving dinner. That's what it felt like for Arsenal fans today, because you just had all this food in front of us and we couldn't even eat it all. That's just how much food we got today, you know, and it never had an experience like this of this magnitude for a player that I wanted really badly as my number one target, and who's going to be so transformational for the team. Now, as you said, Apollo, feet is up. We can relax. I don't think more signings are coming in after Timber. At least there's going to be some big gap in between. Just like last season when we signed Jesus, we signed Zinchenko, we did a lot of the business early, and then we had a little bit of a gap before closing out our business at the end. And I think the same is going to happen now after Timber. We're going to start making the sales. You're going to see the Rob Holdings maybe going on loan. You're going to see the decision between Balogun and Nketiah. You're going to see Lokonga going. You're going to see Pepe being sold, Thomas Partey situation. All that is going to, you know, be solved while we sit and laugh at all the other teams trying to figure out because we've never been in a position like this where other teams, our rivals, have done nothing. No one's even talking about them. You know, maybe Chelsea signed a 15 million winger from Brazil today. I don't even know who the heck that guy is. And Man U are crying about not having more than 100 million to spend. I'm loving it. I'm laughing of tears right now because this is great to see. So overall, as I said, 10 out of 10 transfer window right now. Keep it coming, Arsenal. Love it. Love it.
Excellent, guys. Listen, that is it from us today, guys. It's midnight here. It's time for me to close the stream down. But it's holiday's looking good, man. I'm actually going to go on my holiday with my feet up. I'll be on the plane. I'll be sipping on some nice booze and drink and just taking it easy, although I don't drink that much anymore because of my lungs. But I'll be so happy because like African Good has said, we'll be sitting back laughing at everybody. Imagine that Spurs signed their biggest transfer player of the market so far this summer, and no one's even talking about it because everybody in the media is talking about Declan Rice and Arsenal. Isn't that funny that it's overshadowed and no one's talking about James Maddison going to Spurs? That's hilarious. Unbelievable. All right, guys, listen, great to have you on, and I'll speak to you again. We'll come back. And we'll do some more shows. I'll probably be doing some streams when I'm out in Greece as well. That'll be fun. And we'll catch up with you guys soon, man. Peace
all right,
out,
no worries. Enjoy your holidays.
Nice one, guys. Nice one.